Great. Welcome, everyone, to the Town of Greater Napanee regular session of council for the 23rd day of June, 2026. Just before we call the meeting to order, I just want to remind everyone that this evening's meeting is being live streamed via our YouTube channel. So welcome to all those that are in the body of the council chambers this evening. Welcome to those that are at home watching, and welcome to those that will watch us at a later date, because once it gets on YouTube, it's there forever. So in any event, we'll call the meeting to order. As always, we'll start this evening's meeting off with our opening proceedings, which is the playing of the national anthem. So I'll ask those in the body of the council chambers to stand and face the flag as we play our national anthem. Great. Thanks, everyone. We'll start this evening's meeting off with a little bit of housekeeping, and we'll do our rise and report from closed session, which we had earlier this evening. So I'll look for a motion to rise and report from closed session, moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. This evening, I'd like to report in closed session that council or confidential SR-1387-2026 land sale, former Suddard Lands, that council received for information the confidential SR-1387-2026 land sale, former Suddard Lands report, and further that council directed staff and authorized staff to proceed with the staff recommendation as outlined in the report. So look for a motion to receive that. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Norrie. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Secondly, confidential SR-1388-2026 Human Resources Report that council received for information, the confidential SR-1388-2026 Human Resources Report, and further that council direct and authorize staff to proceed with option 2 as directed in closed session. Moved by Councillor Davies, seconded by Councillor Hicks. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Adoption of the agenda. We'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Deputy Mayor Calver. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none. Presentations. This evening, this is always a highlight of the year for me, and I know for the rest of council. This evening, we have a presentation to the 2026 Senior of the Year. And I'd just like to let everybody know what we have presented, and then we'll, I think maybe Deputy Mayor Calver wanted to say a few words, and we'll get the Senior of the Year to come up. So for most of his adult life, Brian Lowry served the Napanee community as an elementary school teacher, guiding young students, not only in academics, but in character and confidence. Alongside his teaching career, he had been the owner and chief instructor of the Napanee Karate Club for over 35 years. What began as a passion for martial arts grew into a lasting community institution that continues to positively impact families throughout our area. Even after retiring from his career in education, Sensei Brian Lowry never stepped away from his commitment to helping others grow. At 82 years old, he still teaches karate 4 nights a week, demonstrating remarkable dedication, vitality, and purpose. Brian is an inspiration for health and wellness for seniors and the community. He lives his life as an example to all students, young and old, demonstrating the importance of healthy living and community engagement. In addition to teaching regular classes at the Napanee Karate Club, he has demonstrated an exceptional commitment to community service through many years of volunteer work. He has generously donated his time teaching women's self-defense both at his school and for many groups in town and surrounding area, empowering participants with practical skills and confidence. When Sensei Brian Lowry is not teaching and running the Napanee Karate Club, he brings his wife of 50+ years and his son to church, where he serves as an usher and provides music on the piano for some services and their musical nights. He has served on 2 church boards in Napanee, has spent years volunteering at churches in many different ways. Christmas Eve, he could be found delivering Christmas dinners to families in need. During the pandemic, Brian helped several friends, peers, and neighbors who were unable to leave their homes. He brought them groceries, delivered their mail, mowed their grass, arranged snow plowing, and countless other acts of kindness. Brian has spent his whole life looking for, not wanting, waiting for opportunities to help others. His decades of service have left a lasting legacy in Napanee, and his impact continues to grow with every student he teaches. Very impressive. And I know that Deputy Mayor Calver would like to say a few words as well. So Brian, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, through your worship. Sensei, I can't even begin to explain what you've done for this community of ours, for myself and my family. I just wanted to get an opportunity to thank you publicly. Everybody keeps asking, what did you do with your boys? How did your boys turn out so good? Well, sir, a lot of that was you. And I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. Now, Brian, I'm going to ask you to come up to the microphone, and we're going to present you with a certificate. So come on up, sir. So, yep, we'll do it right here. So what we have here is a certificate that states the 2026 Senior of the Year Award presented to Brian Lowry by the municipality of the town of Greater Napanee in recognition of outstanding contributions after age 65 that strengthen and protect our communities. And it's signed by the Honorable Raymond Scholl, Minister for Seniors and Accessibility, Her Honor, the Honorable Edith Dumont, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, and the Head of Council, myself, Terry Richardson. Sir, congratulations. Thank you so much. I know. Well, we've got staff that are going to take some pictures because I'm sure it's going to end up on our website, and then we'll give family the opportunity to come up and take some pictures as well, family and friends. So, yeah, go get. Yeah. Now, family and friends, you want to take some photos? Then we're going to give Brian the opportunity to. So, if anybody wants to take some photos.
Can we approach you guys? Would that be a picture with you guys?
Yeah, come on up, just pictures, and like I say, then we'll give. I think Brian probably wants to say a few words, maybe not. We're going to give the opportunity. Oh, tonight you're actually got a lot of time, so. everybody crowding in here, so.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, Brian, the microphone's yours and the whole world's watching, so we'll let you speak. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Honorable Mayor Terry. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bryant. Thank you, councilors. Thank you to all my friends and family that came out. You know, nobody achieves anything by themselves. I've had my family behind me from day one, starting with my wife, Margaret. I came here more than 60 years ago and decided to make Napanee my home. And I think it was a pretty good decision. I've been very blessed in my life. Things just seem to fall in place. Just when I needed a boost, there was always someone there to give me a boost. It's pretty hard to live up to all those wonderful things you said about me. But no one can operate alone. Everyone has to have family, friends, confidants, people you can let a little steam off with. I really appreciate the words of encouragement from Mayor Terry and from Deputy Mayor Brian. And councilors, I know they have a chance for input. And they still have to do their job in spite of the keyboard warriors that are out there who are all ready to find some little error and maybe not contribute, but they're ready to find fault. So all of those of you who you have an election coming up in the fall, many of you are brave enough to run for re-election. I say good for you. We need brave people. We need brave people. But I have a lot of brave people who come out and help me. And it's easy to help the students who are naturally gifted. The ones that have some challenges, they're the ones that need the extra help. And they're the ones I always wanted to focus on as much as I could. I know there's so much more that I could have done. And I'm not finished yet. When I was told I was getting this award, I thought it was for being the best looking guy in Napanee. But Brian Calver already told me that he is the best looking guy in Napanee. So then I thought, well, it's for the oldest dude in Napanee. Well, no, there's a few that can beat me that way. But I still have a few years left in me. And fortunately, a couple of years ago, my family moved from Ottawa to just around the corner from me, and they're slowly starting to integrate into the Napanee Karate Club. And without them, I wouldn't have been able to continue. So I'm going to continue for as long as I can. So this is the end of my speech, unless Patrick, do you want to come up and give your recipes now? Or how am I doing? Am I doing okay? Oh, all right. So, all right. Well, Patrick says I'm doing a fine job, then that's good for me. So thank you again very much, and God bless every one of you for being here. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna take a break so you can spend some time with family and so you don't have to hang around, because it's just boring after this. So. Thank you, everyone. We're going to take a break so that Brian can, have some fun with the family and the friends that are here. And if it's any indication, the the effect he's had on this community. I can see it today. I don't know, I can't remember the last time the council chambers have been so full. So thanks again, and we'll take a break and we'll see you back in a few minutes. Great. Thank you. And thank you. Thanks to the public for your indulgence. Moving on, we do have a public meeting this evening, so we'll look for a motion to convene a public meeting. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Hicks. If there's no further comments, questions, concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. First matter, development charges background study update. And I believe, Mr. Nobes, you're going to speak to that. And like always, if there's anyone in the body of the council chambers that wishes to speak at this public meeting, we'll make sure that they get that opportunity to do that. But it doesn't look like there's many left. So go ahead, Michael.
Thank you, Worship, and through you to Council. This public meeting is associated with the town's update to the currently in effect 2022 development charges background study and associated bylaw. We've been undertaking some heavy lifting with regards to future capital needs to embed those into the existing background study through this proposed update. We're focusing predominantly on growth studies, water and wastewater services, while also aligning the actual bylaw itself and the amendments there too with recent provincial legislative changes. So this was initiated as a precursor to our mandatory 5-year interval of development charge background study and bylaw updates. It's really to align, and it was initially intended to align the DC framework with the Water Pollution Control Plant Expansion Financial Plan, which has been adopted by Council, and the project is well underway. So this was initially started through that as an avenue to identify potential other funding opportunities to help reduce the impact on rates associated with that project. So ultimately, the intent was to ensure that development charges are helping to cover the appropriate allocated cost around that project. So there was updates to the actual costing of that to help inform the rates, along with a number of other projects that were identified through this update. So over the past several years, as I'd mentioned, the province made a number of legislative changes to the actual Development Charges Act itself. So what this update also is doing is it gave us an opportunity to consolidate all of those changes over the last 3 or 4 years into a single, more streamlined bylaw, which will help improve our transparency with the public and provide a greater ease for staff in actual review and implementation of the bylaw itself at the time of development. So the study has been undertaken in a legislatively compliant fashion. It's including allocation for growth versus the benefit to existing per project, and ensures that our rates are defensible and supportable. The update also improves our position from an audit perspective and a compliance standpoint. So both DC rates and the underlying capital program that is embedded within the background study are clearly documented and aligned with the current legislative requirements. I just wanted to touch on briefly how the development charge reduction program intersects with this project. So this update work that was initiated over the last 18 months or so was well established prior to the province announcing on June 1st of this year the development charge reduction program. So this effectively sets out what capital projects DCs can be used for and what we're collecting for. The development charge reduction program, if the town is successful, would reduce the rates and lock them in from the rates that were in effect as of March 30th, 2026. So if we're successful with that application, there are a number of growth-related projects that would need to be advanced in order to comply with a future transfer payment agreement with the province. That would then come back to council if we are successful to determine whether or not council is comfortable with entering into that agreement and having a potential amount of foregone development charge revenue. The intent of the program itself, the funding program, is to offset the anticipated foregone revenues. So it's not that you would be fully without collection of development charges. You're still recovering 50% of those rates plus the top up from the province, but you're committed to advancing growth-related infrastructure needs through the actual funding itself. So the province's intent is to bring on more housing by having infrastructure ready to accommodate the housing, and they're hopeful to see the open market compete with itself to have a reduction in overall house pricing as a result of several municipalities reducing their DCs and thereby developers and home builders hopefully reducing their prices as a result to compete with one another to provide a more affordable housing structure for the province. So that said, I will turn things over to Watson. So Mr. Byron Tan is here to present the background study and run through his presentation for council. And I'd be happy to answer any questions after he is complete.
Great, thanks, Michael. And the magic of the internet, I think Christina's going to bring in the folks from Watson. Welcome, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Your Worship. How are you doing today?
Good, good. Thank you for coming in this evening, and whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Just share my screen here. And please let me know when you can see my screen.
Yep, it just come up. Your presentation's there, so.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me this evening. Not sure, I've only heard just the tail end of whether I was online, but for those, I guess a quick introduction, my name is Byron Tan. I'm a managing partner here at Watson Associates, and we were retained by the municipality to undertake your development charge update study. So today is a mandatory public meeting to present not only the findings of the presentation, but also solicit feedback from the public and then any questions from council, as well as any interested bodies. So today's presentation, I'll just walk you through a bit of an overview of what I'll be discussing. I know it appears lengthy, but it will be a fairly quick presentation. Just provide you a little bit of overviews of the timelines, what's transpired so far, and then really go into the development charge calculations, but also changes to the Development Charges Act that some of you may have been following, especially in the last not only 3 weeks, but also over the past year. After that, we'll just go through the proposed policies, growth forecasts, and proposed rates that are being included as part of this update, and then providing you a bit of a feedback on how other municipalities stack up to yourselves. So without further ado, just going through the timelines and the process. We started working with staff really about mid or the summer of last year. Since that time, we have been updating 3 different services, which you'll see in a moment, pertaining to water, wastewater, and studies. However, there was a lot of work in the background because there were changes, especially through legislation, where, a lot of discussions were, should we update it? Should we wait until your next full DC? So that's why there was a little bit of a longer process than originally planned. Now, we did release the background study back in May of last month. So we are trying to meet now the mandatory 60-day timelines for you to be able to consider the bylaw, the amending bylaw. So we're here today with the mandatory public meeting, and then such time, anything past the 60-day mark post May 14th, council can't consider the updated bylaw. Now, with respect to the public meeting, as some of you may have already heard me, through the previous development charge background study, it is a process in order to complete the implementation of the findings of the background study. So in order for us to go through the bylaw update process, we must have not only the background study update, but also this public meeting, as I mentioned, in order to solicit input from yourselves as well as the public. Now, this meeting is a mandatory milestone under the Development Charges Act, so we must have a public meeting prior to consideration of any bylaw. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, there is a window that we must adhere to prior to consideration of any development charge study and applicable bylaw, and that's 60 days from the release of the study till such time council can consider the passage of those updates. Now, again, not to belabor the situation or bore you with the gory details, but with respect to development charges, just a quick Cole's notes version, it is meant to recover for growth-related capital costs with respect to residential and non-residential growth. Keyword there being growth-related and capital only. It's not meant for asset management or any type of operating types of initiatives. And these capital costs would be in addition to what you would already require developers to provide on your behalf, whether that's through subdivision agreements, the installation of local water, wastewater, maybe sidewalks in front of people's homes, etc. And municipalities, you are empowered to have a development charge bylaw via the Development Charges Act. It's not mandatory, but it is a revenue tool at your disposal to essentially not increase your property taxes to an extent by using DCs to offset those would have been required increases to pay for new infrastructure. So as we go through the updates, a bit of background. So we had gone through with staff and updated 3 different services, namely your growth studies, water services, and wastewater services. Now, keep in mind with the water services, we did include update for the wastewater services. We've updated revised costing based on information that staff have received through engineering estimates as well as new information that's available. And we also updated the financing associated with it too. So whether that be grants that you've received via the province or any types of different scenarios that are now being contemplated by the municipality versus what was originally considered back in 2022 when we did your initial study. Now, as part of these updates, we did incorporate those all those items, but at the same time, there were a lot of legislative changes that occurred through that year, which created an iterative process of every time we would update, we would now have to treat a capital cost in a certain way or a certain fashion because the act now changed the rules. So while there was a little bit of repetition and back and forth in order to get to where we are today, we're happy to say that the current bylaw does meet the legislative requirements, as has been changed basically over the last year. Now, again, quick overview of how we get to the development charges. As you probably already know, we start off at a very high level looking at your growth and development, typically through your official plan. Then we go through all of the capital needs that will be required to support that growth, whether it's maintaining proposed levels of service that may be considered as part of your AMP, or even master plans that dictate what the level of offering should be accommodated for the new developments and new population based on what you want to provide in terms of services. And once we've identified that, essentially we just plug it into the calculations and it spits out a development charge that would then be imposed on residential and non-residential development. So in simplest terms, we take the growth-related capital costs of what you're trying to pay for or construct, and as long as it meets the test that it is related to growth, we divide that by the population, whether it be residential or non-residential, and that generates a charge per unit, typically singles, townhomes, apartments, or a charge per square foot or per square meter, whatever unit of measure you'd like to utilize. So just a few slides here just to provide you a bit of feedback as to what did transpire since we started the process and why it kept being an iterative process. The one thing that we were working with staff on is the deferral of DC payments to occupancy. So this actually has a cash flow implication for municipalities across Ontario and including yourselves. So historically, when development or builders would go to the building department before they can pull a building permit, they have to pay a development charge if it's an applicable or eligible home or non-residential unit. Now, at that time, as soon as you get the DC payments, you put into your reserve funds, you issue the building permit. Now what's happened is you have to wait essentially until occupancy before you can collect the DCs. So while you can calculate the DCs at building permit, you're not receiving the funds until maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, once occupancy has been established and these units are built. Now, that causes cash flow issues because if you're not getting the money up front and you have to build a water main, road, a park, well, essentially you're cash flowing those. So they would have to be funded via own resources from the municipality until such time you get the DC payments to pay yourself back. So there is that implication that may tie up debt or other funds that could have been used for other sources because of the delayed payments here. There's also been changes to how interest rates are calculated. So this is really dealing with rental housing and institutional payments. Historically, if you had rentals or institutional, they would pay their DCs over 6 installments or 5 years, and you could apply interest to them. The opportunity cost of not getting the money up front and you being able to invest it in your reserves. Well, that interest application has now been removed. So therefore, whatever the rates were calculated at the time of building permit, then that is what they pay with no added interest costs. And then they've also provided an interesting application here where even though almost all residential DCs now pay at occupancy, developers do have the ability to pay at an earlier date than occupancy or some other date without having entering into an agreement with the municipality. Whereas historically, you would have to enter into what's called a Section 27 agreement in order to get funds either early or later, right? It's a earlier delayed payment agreement. So they've allowed developers to essentially decide whether they want to provide you with monies ahead of schedule. And then this bill took in effect mostly in November 3rd, but there was elements of it that actually took in effect in June. So when we were essentially starting this update, and those changes revolved around long-term care homes being fully exempt, having DC rates, the lower of the two between what's frozen through site plan and zoning bylaw applications versus what would be the current rates today. Developers always pay the lower of the two calculations now. And then there's also some changes as well with respects to how we calculate capital and credits, which I said everything kind of became the perfect storm into this DC process. Now, with respect to Bill 60, so this came in, I believe, October, and then within a month it became effective November 27. So within a month and a few days, it went from first reading to royal assent. And this changed a lot of the ways we calculate capital costs, primarily with land. Now, for your purposes, because we didn't update any of those types of services that have land purchases, we did not have to worry about some of these details. However, you could see that there are now changes to treasurer statements where, treasurer statements are due to council by June 30th, and then it has to go to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing by July 15th. There's also rules now with the usage of reserve funds and how those are classified, and the introduction of local service policies, which essentially outlines what you want included for recovery under the DCs versus what you would like paid for by the development community via their local servicing. Now, we do include local service policies for all of our studies here at Watson, so you already do have one. But for other municipalities that don't have this piece of literature in the back of their background studies, they would now need to update their studies within essentially 18 months to be able to include this type of policy. And then the last piece on the legislative front is this Building Homes and Improving Transportation Infrastructure Act, so Bill 98. So it made the number of changes to planning, different parkland, site plans, etc. But namely from a DC standpoint, it introduced a nonprofit retirement home development for DCs. Now, I believe this is still going through the legislation, so it's not currently in effect yet. But again, the changes to the act, I feel like it changes daily. So this may have been updated recently. And then in terms of the expanded provincial funding, most of you have probably lived this over the last 2-3 weeks. But essentially, the province and the federal government introduced an $8.8 billion housing enabling fund, which they're calling a DC reduction program, where if you are part of this application, committing to reduce your DCs, whether by 30 to 50% or more, you could be eligible for the shortfall of DCs that you wouldn't collect over a 3-year period. Now, that application has closed, I believe, as of Friday, Thursday, Friday of last week. So I believe now the province and the transfer payment authorities are now going through all the applications to identify who would be successful with with this transfer payment. Now, in terms of your DCs, again, when you're implementing a development charge, it's not full cost recovery. There's mandatory exemptions, which are, again, really are just part of the Development Charges Act. And then as well, there's discretionary exemptions that you can't collect for. Now, mandatory exemptions include additional dwelling units, industrial expansions, rental discounts for rental housing, etc. But in addition to those mandatory exemptions, yourselves as council and the municipality can include discretionary exemptions for any number of reasons, whether it's trying to help out one sector or maybe again with some type of economic development, what have you. Now, for discretionary exemptions, you can reduce the DCs in whole or in part. So maybe you provide a break for industrial or a smaller charge. You may exempt, places of worship. You may phase in the charge over time. And then as well, there's redevelopment credits where, if a house burnt down, they should be able to rebuild within a period of time without having to pay a DC. Now, keep in mind, for the first two items that I mentioned, any exemptions or discounts that you provide, you have to fund. So it's not a freebie where you're essentially saying, well, I don't want to collect from industrial because the charges are calculated across all of your developments. So I'll use a simple example. If you had a project that was $1 million, and let's assume that there were no exemptions as of now, and based on the development charge, 900,000 of that would have been collected from residential and 100,000 would have been collected from non-residential. And let's assume that that's all industrial. Well, if you exempt industrial, then effectively you're choosing not to collect that $100,000. So when it's time to build the project, and let's say you've collected all your DCs, well, you've only collected 900,000 of that million, even though we calculated the charge for the full million. So effectively, by exempting a category, you now have to make up that 100,000 because the project still costs $1 million. So exemptions do need to be funded from other sources, and they can't be DC sources. So you can't take that 100,000 and put it into the residential, right? By effectively reducing it, you have to now pick it up from taxes, water, wastewater rates, reserves, etc. And the town's current exemptions, which we're not touching, but we are maintaining as part of your bylaw, is farms as well as public hospitals. Now, just to provide you a bit of background, there is also an exemption that you must provide, which is called affordable housing. So what this means is if a development or a building comes through the department and can demonstrate that they are considered affordable based on the definition that you're seeing on the screen, then they don't pay DCs. So how this is calculated, it is a bulletin that is published by the province. It's a mouthful. It's equal to 30% of the 60th percentile of income, for that particular unit build. But essentially what you care about is on the right-hand side. So if a house, whether it's a townhouse, an apartment, or a single family home, if it's less than $341,100 for a sale price, then it's exempt from DCs. Likewise, if it's affordable rent, then the monthly rent has to be less than the numbers that you're seeing on the screen. Now, it's not a typo. It appears that a studio or bachelor apartment is more expensive than a one-bedroom based on how it's calculated for your municipality. But then you can see, for a 3+ bedroom, if it's less than $1,610, then it is considered affordable and it would be exempt. Now, keep in mind your exemption. You have to enter into a 25-year agreement with these said units to ensure that they remain affordable. So the moment there's a change of hands or change in rent, and they no longer meet that criteria of affordable housing or affordable rent, then that agreement effectively allows you to charge DCs that were owed because, again, they're not maintaining the agreed upon affordable designation. In terms of the growth forecast, again, there's been no changes, but just want to provide you a refresher. that your current study, it does look at a few different time horizons. We were going out to 2031, 2036, and then really the build out of your treatment plant expansion, your capacity. So you can see here from a housing standpoint, for the shorter term, we were looking at just under 780 homes, 1,100 homes over that 2036 period, and then just over 2,000 homes in that longer term, based on the capacity of your works. And then you can see corresponding non-res. You can see, we were estimating anywhere from just under 600,000 square feet all the way to almost 1 million square feet of non-residential buildings. Now, we just want to put a note as well. There are some minor revisions that we wanted to point out. A couple of things. One, within the background study, we noticed that there was a calculation when we were converting the square feet to square meters. The moment you start rounding conversion from 4 or 5 decimal places down to 2, it does change the rate significantly, almost to the tune of 5 cents per square meter. So we've made some minor updates, which are reflected in this presentation, and we will be providing just an update to those tables. Now, just as a note, all the square footage calculations are correct. It was just that conversion to square meter that had a slight discrepancy. And then there was a minor rounding error as well for growth studies. But you can see when we say minor rounding, it's $1. So you can see the single family home, it should be $30,929 rather than $30,930. So, and on the non-res, it was 2 cents. So there's no change to the capital program, but we would just like to note that we'd like to be a little bit more exact. So we are updating it to reflect that dollar change in that 2 pennies. Now, in terms of your current indexed DCs, you can see that these are your rates right now as of 2026. And you can see for a single family home, if you're building in an area that has water and wastewater services, you're about 27,465. And as I said, with your indexed amount, with your non-residential amount, it should be around $13.26 per square foot. Now, based on the calculated rates, you can see here that the changes to the growth studies, water and wastewater, based on, again, updating the capital costs, grant funding, as well as some new projects, that increases the charge now to $30,929 and $15.01, respectively, for the non-res. And what does this mean? So it's effectively your residential rate for a single would go up about $3,463 for 2026. Again, namely being with the water being the primary factor, and then you have wastewater and growth studies as well. And then with respect to non-residential, you can see there were the per square foot again has gone up slightly. Now, keep in mind that the per square meter, you can see how we've made some updates. We did notice that on your pamphlet online, as I said, for, let's say, services related to highway, it says $22.45. We didn't touch roads, but if you actually converted it based on square foot to square meter, it should be $22.50. So we're just putting this for the municipality's consideration to update your pamphlet, just so that your per square meter ties into the per square foot rate. So all the per square feet match. It was just the per square meter that needs to be updated. Now, in terms of the comparator analysis, the gray is your current development charge, the teal arrow being your calculated. And the difference in the bar chart, the stack bar chart, with the dark blue being your lower tier or single tier charges, which is really just the municipal portion. The teal color, I apologize, I'm using teal twice, but the teal on the above the dark blue is the lower tier, but it's the urban charges. So this is your water and wastewater. So you can see for yourselves, the water and wastewater make up a large portion of your overall municipal DCs. And then you have the gold at the very top, which would be any upper tier charges, and then education DCs, if applicable, would be included here as well. And as you can see, based on the charges, you would just move above Hamilton Township. Now, in terms of the commercial and the per square foot, again, same type of figures and the legend, and then as well, you could see based on the difference of the rates, you are still within the same realm, but again, moving just above Hamilton Township. And then on the non-residential side, same context on the industrial. So that concludes my presentation. As I said, this is the mandatory public meeting, and we are looking for council to consider the bylaw effectively anytime 60 days after May 14th. So happy to take any questions.
Yeah, great. Thank you, sir, for just hanging tight. I'll see if council has any questions. Deputy Mayor Carver.
Thank you, through your worship. So most of this $3,063 is the water and wastewater increase. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Carver. Is there anything else council had? Any questions for the folks from Watson's? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Very informative, and we appreciate your time.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I don't believe there's anything else for Mr. Nobes. Did you want to add anything in there, Michael?
No, not at this time, Your Worship, unless council had any other questions on the content that's been posted on the agenda.
Oh, I think Deputy Mayor Carver has a question, and I think Councilor Hicks. So go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship, Mr. Nobes. So just for clarification for everybody out there watching, the 3,463 increase, that's the water and wastewater. And we will be doing a reduction if we are successful. Is that correct?
Yes, through Your Worship. So staff were able to meet the extremely tight turnaround time for the province's development charge reduction program application window. So we submitted the application in alignment with the requirements, and if successful through that avenue, the rates across the board for the town for residential development would be cut in half, so a 50% reduction from the rates that were in effect as of the end of March this year. So effectively, it would mean a $13,000 development charge if we are successful. And that's for a period of 3 years and only applies to residential and does not impact non-residential. So meaning commercial, industrial growth, we would still be collecting that full amount.
Okay, thank you. And that only covers the projects that are shovel ready now. Is that correct?
Through Your Worship, yes. So effectively what the intent of the program was to have municipalities estimate what their foregone revenue would be through their reduction in the 3-year window, and the province would effectively provide the difference. In a boiling it down, that's the easiest way that I can describe it.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Carver. Councilor Hicks.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. Mr. Tan, you may have already shared the presentation with Michael, but if you haven't, could you, so that he could then share it with the rest of us? Because it was a very nice way to condense your 58-page report. And it would be nice to have it just for quick reference. So thank you.
Through Your Worship, I would just note it is on the agenda, and it was added just slightly after the publication. We were just waiting on it. So it's, if you, I think you just need to refresh the browser. You'll see it in there. Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hicks. Is there anything else? Seeing none, thanks, folks. Very informative. And if there's no other questions, then we'll look for a motion to adjourn the public meeting. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carver, seconded by Councilor Norrie. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Deputations, scheduled deputations. Don't believe we have any deputations item on the agenda. I don't believe we have any correspondence items on the agenda. I don't believe we have any unfinished business. There's no unfinished business, which gets us directly into the administrative consent agenda, starting with the council minutes for the regular session of councils and the special session of council June 9th and 17th. There's anything in those minutes anyone have any questions or comments about? Seeing none, the committee minutes, Compliance Audit Committee and the Community Initiatives Fund Advisory Committee. Is there anything in those minutes, those committee minutes, anyone had any questions or comments about? Seeing none, correspondence for information items dated June 23rd, 2026. Is there any of those correspondences that anyone would like to have a chat about or speak to? Seeing none, closed session direction, former Suddard subdivision offers to purchase review. Is there anything in that report anyone had any comments or questions about? Seeing none, financial and IT services 2025 annual review of vehicle rates. Anything in that report anyone had any comments or questions about? Seeing none, financial and IT services funding sources available to support rural transit. Is there anything in that report anyone had any comments about? Seeing none, financial and IT services county recoverable projects 2025. Anything in that report that anyone had any questions about? Seeing none, financial and IT services by Ontario Act, the public sector procurement. Is there anything in that report that anyone would like to discuss? Seeing none, and executive services bylaw enforcement standards policy update. Is there anything in that report that anyone had any comments about? Seeing none, executive services activity report for June of 2026. Is there anything in the activity report for executive services anyone had any questions about? Seeing none, growth and infrastructure activity report. Anything in that report? Seeing none, parks, recreation, and culture activity report. Anything in that activity report? Seeing none, financial and IT services activity report June of 2026. Anything in the financial and IT services report? Anyone had any comments or questions about Deputy Mayor Cower?
I didn't get my hand up quick enough for 10.13 recreation, parks and culture. Yeah, just about the docks and how everything's still on the go for that. Did Mr. Brown want to talk more on that?
Yep, go ahead. If you have any questions or comments about it?
Yeah, so Mr. Brown, we're still on queue for the dock for the third week in July. Is that correct?
Yes, through your worship. So that is the plan. The contractor has said the third week of July. They did indicate to me that if they could get to it sooner, they would, and they would let me know, but I haven't heard anything different. So that is the anticipated construction date.
Excellent. Sorry, I keep hammering you about this, but I constantly get hammered myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calvert.
Yes, sir.
Financial and IT services activity report. I don't believe there was anything there. And finally, the Access E11 May 2026 report. Is there anything in the Access E11 report anyone had questions or comments about? Seeing none. So we'll look back for council to consent to the approval of the following routine items at the minutes of the regular session of council dated June 9th, 2026, and the special session of council dated June 17th, 2026 be adopted as presented, that the Compliance Audit Committee and the Community Initiatives Fund Advisory Committee minutes of May 28th through June 15th, 2026 be received for information, that the correspondence for information items dated June 23rd, 2026 be received, that council receive for information closed session direction former Suddard subdivision offer to purchase review report, that council receive for information the financial and IT services 2025 annual review of the vehicle rates report. The council receive for information the financial and IT services funding sources available to support rural transit. The council receive for information financial and IT services report county recoverable projects 2025. The council receive for information the financial and IT services by Ontario Act report. The council receive for information the executive services bylaw enforcement standards policy update report. And further, that council adopt the amended policy as presented at this meeting, that activity reports for executive services, growth and infrastructure, parks, recreation and culture, financial and IT services for the month June 2026, and the Access E11 report for May 2026, items 10.11 through 10.15 be received for information. Moved by Councillor Norrie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Calvert. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion carried. Items for consideration. Building automation system replacement, 99 Advance Avenue. Mr. Brown, are you going to start?
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. I will have Richard start us off, and then I will take it home from there.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. I'm joined by Mr. Brown this evening to speak on the building automation system for 99 Advance. And you'll find the report before you recommends the replacement of the automation system at a total cost of $58,440 plus applicable taxes. So while we're not going to read word for word on the report, as you can see, it's extensive. We're going to highlight the main points we wanted to bring to council this evening. So the building automation system, what it does, the building automation system is the central nervous system for the building's mechanical equipment. It controls the heating and ventilation and air conditioning across the facility. And in practical terms, it keeps the building at a comfortable and consistent temperature, manages the airflow and ventilation, and runs the equipment on schedule so that systems are not heating or cooling spaces that are unoccupied. It is the difference between a building that is actively managed and one where each piece of equipment runs blindly on its own. And that active management directly controls our energy costs. So how it works, the system is, it's linked to the mechanical equipment, things like furnaces, rooftop units, fans, and the domestic hot water system. All of these are linked with sensors and controls back to a central platform. The information is fed through the automation system, and it highlights things like temperature, scheduling, and equipment status to that platform. And staff can then monitor the conditions, adjust the set points, and respond to issues. This is the central control which allows us to effectively run the facility efficiently and to catch problems early, and also to keep energy in check. So why we need the upgrade? The existing system is built on a Johnson Controls Metasys platform, and this was installed in September of 2008. It is now well beyond its serviceable life, and the software version in use has reached the end of its life, meaning it's no longer supported by the manufacturer. As the system ages, replacement parts are becoming increasingly difficult to source, and as we face growing risks of failures, that would leave staff without a centralized control over the building's mechanical systems. In a failure scenario, staff would be managing heating and ventilation systems manually, which means going up to the roof on a case-by-case basis. We're bringing this forward now while the system is still operational so that we can plan the transition rather than be forced by failure. The proposed replacement is an Alerton BACnet platform. It's supplied and installed by HTS. The scope also brings the domestic hot water controls back into the platform for active monitoring. The Alerton platform is built on the Open BACnet standard, which gives the town greater flexibility for future service and expansion and reduces our exposure to proprietary single vendor lock-in. And HTS is being recommended as the provider for that, and I'll hand it over to Mr. Brown, my colleague, to speak on the financial implications.
Thank you, Richard. So just to touch on the financial implications, the estimated total project cost is summarized as follows. So the building automation system replacement at $47,450. The domestic hot water system control tie-in would cost $10,990. The non-recoverable tax is included in there at $1,028. And then we did put a contingency in at 10% just for any unforeseen things that could happen during the full update and replacement. So we wanted to, the project would be funded or is recommended to be funded from the Building Maintenance Reserve, which has an unaudited 2025 year-end balance of approximately $615,000. Staff do feel that that building maintenance reserve is sort of there for reasons such as this. The replacement certainly is expected to reduce ongoing operating costs through fewer emergency service calls, energy savings, and improved scheduling and boiler plant optimization. And extended equipment life is the big one, especially for the heating plant. So this investment over the long term will reduce our overall operating costs. Just some other points. I know Richard touched on them briefly. We do recommend to single source. HTS Engineering design and install the original building automation system during the construction of the building, and they've serviced the system throughout its life. The firm holds detailed knowledge of the building's mechanical systems, control infrastructure, and existing wiring that another contractor would have to develop at additional time and cost. So there is some savings by going with the company that knows the building best. They do currently hold the maintenance contract for the system right now. And they're already familiar with the site, its history, its reoccurring issues, which also reduces the risk of installation delays, integration problems, and unforeseen conditions during the replacement. The replacement platform, because it's an open protocol system, while the installation is being single sourced to the contractor best positioned to deliver that, the open standard ensures that the town's not tied to them, a single vendor for future service expansion. So we could change in the future if we needed to. One of the things about a competitive tender, of course, is that it would add months and it would risk missing that summer shutdown window. So that is the reason that staff are recommending we single source this to HTS, get this done now when we have the opportunity. I would want to mention that the project supports the town's obligations under the Occupational Health and Safety Act. We have had several staff in certain conditions uncomfortable in there. Things fail. We have to react. We're reactionary. We're not proactively getting ahead of these. This update would basically alert us immediately. We could look at the system, how it's performing right from our desks. And so this is upgraded technology that's going to make us more efficient. And we're investing in the building that everybody's working at, not only our staff, but also our tenants and visitors from the public as well. So there is a lot more detail in the report, but I think this would be an opportune time to open it up to questions from council.
Great, thank you, Mr. Brown. Go ahead, Councillor Norrie.
Thank you. Through you, glad to hear about the money that we have. It was my question, how are we going to pay for it? But it sounds like it'll pretty well wipe out the reserves. How's the rest of the building? Do you feel confident that we can save enough for a roof or something down the road without an issue? We're just worried about the tax dollars, that's all.
So through your worship, so the reserve is at 615,000 and this estimated cost will be 65,000. So it won't wipe it out, but it definitely will put a dent in it. The rest of the building, we have had engineers on site looking at some of the envelope issues that we've had. But we do have a plan in place for that as well that wouldn't require that building reserve to be touched. So this is the main one right now that we're dealing with on an ongoing basis. We're seeing failures here and there. We're having to call in contractors and service providers to do emergency calls and quick repairs, where we think this is going to get us far ahead. We're going to be able to proactively address these issues. I don't know if you have anything to add on that, but that's essentially Matthew has.
Yeah, I think Mr. Grant wants to add on to it. So,
and through you, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Norrie, the other thing I would point out to members of council is we consistently look for operational savings, and I would point out that Mr. Phillips was able to secure for us some savings related to energy use. Things like that particular savings could be directed to something like this. I think there's also expense avoidance by being able to detect problems before they occur. And of course, we'll continue to look for those operational efficiencies as Mr. Phillips has brought forward.
Great, thank you, Mr. Grant. Thank you, Councillor Norrie. Is there Councillor Hicks?
Well, Windows XP, and I've actually attended meetings in Matthew's office, and yeah, I can't wait for it to be fixed. And I would move staff recommendation to single source with HTS and get this underway as quickly as possible.
Great, thanks, Councillor Hicks. Do we have a seconder, Councillor Norrie? So we do have a recommendation, the Building Automation System Replacement Report of 99 Advance to receive that. And further, that council approve the replacement of the building automation system at 99 Advance Avenue, including the integration of the domestic hot water system controls at a total cost of $58,440 plus applicable taxes, in accordance with quotations received from HTS Engineering Limited, Job 22303-453, quotations 1 and 2 dated January 27, 2026, and further, that staff be authorized to execute any agreements or documents necessary to give effect to this resolution, and further, that council authorized procurement be single source from HTS Engineering Limited, and further, the project be funded from the Building Maintenance Reserve. Is there anything further? If not, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motions on the floor. Opposed? Motion's carried. Parks, Recreation, and Culture Indoor Recreation Facility Deputation follow-up. And Mr. Brown, you're going to speak to that.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Council will recall that we received a deputation in February of 2026 from Tammy Giles, Connie McGarvey, and Bill Kosman. They presented a proposal for a new fieldhouse recreation facility in Greater Napanee. They are hoping to work with the town to collaboratively fundraise, as was done for the construction of the arena 25 years ago. Council noted and received that deputation and directed staff to bring back a report regarding the proposal for further consideration. So in consultation with the senior leadership team, it was determined that the logical next step, if council does want to proceed with this proposal, is to have a feasibility study conducted. Feasibility studies are typically conducted by specialized external consulting firms with expertise in recreation planning, financial analysis, and facility design. These studies are supported by a multidisciplinary team of professionals, including planners, financial analysts, architects, and engineers, with input from municipal staff and community stakeholders. The feasibility study will assess the viability of a new indoor recreation facility through the following core components: needs and demand analysis, stakeholder and public engagement, existing facility assessment, facility options and program development, site evaluation and concept design, capital and operating cost analysis, financial and business case, and implementation strategy. A feasibility study is a risk management and decision support tool that ensures the right project is pursued, right sizes the investment, and improves long-term success and sustainability. Looking at the financial implications, municipal feasibility studies for indoor rec facilities typically range from approximately $50,000 to $150,000, depending on the scope, with larger or more complex studies exceeding this range where extensive engagement, concept design, and financial analysis are required. Council-ready studies that are intended to support major capital decisions and funding applications, which is the big one, typically exceed that $100,000 mark. The draft updated DC background study does include a provision for a feasibility study, which is 50% supported by growth and 50% funded through benefit to existing. This means that if the updated DC background study is approved, 50% of the feasibility study can be funded through DCs, while 50% would need to be funded through an alternative revenue source, most likely the tax levy. So staff are recommending that council recommend to the next council term's mayor to consider inclusion of a feasibility study for an indoor rec facility as part of the 2027 budget deliberations. Alternatively, if council wanted to complete the feasibility study immediately, reserve funds would need to be utilized to fund the expense. And given that there are not suitable reserve funds to draw from for this particular project, the general tax rate stabilization fund wouldn't have to be used, and staff are not recommending that as a viable option, but it is one. And then the other option would be that if council doesn't support the recommendation to bring forward a feasibility study for the 2027 budget process, then that's also an option as well. But I'm happy to take questions from council on the next steps of this proposal.
Great, go ahead. Thanks, Mr. Brown. Is there any questions, Councillor Norrie?
Back to money. I can't, with all the unknowns we have from our budget and things going on in the world, I just right now can't authorize even 50% of that money. The 2027 have to decide that if they want to spend that kind of money, and they'll know more what other things are costing than we do. So I would suggest we just put it on hold until there's a new council and they can have it on their budget process if they wish. I'm not trying to slough it off, but there's just too many unknowns right now. And we don't want to label them or hit them with that one until they know. That's just my opinion.
Thanks, Councillor Norrie. And I think, sorry, go ahead, Michael. I missed your hand there, so.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Just in through you to council. I just wanted to highlight, and this wouldn't impact timing and budget and anything like that. I just wanted to highlight the feasibility study has been included in the DC background study as a DC eligible item to a point. So it's about 50-50. So as Mr. Brown mentioned, I did want to clarify and make very clear to council that if a feasibility study goes forward, and if the study says, yes, you need more recreational facilities, it should consist of whatever built form. In order to start collecting under the DC framework for that, you need to have a feasibility study to justify the need to put it into the background study. So this is why we've built it into the background study to justify, is it needed or is it not, to then capture it in the next round of the DC update study in 2027, hopefully, as another project to collect DCs for to help fund the actual build of this, along with portion coming from external funding, a portion coming from the levy, and a portion ultimately coming from development charges, which help to reduce that impact on the levy. So just want to make that point for council.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Michael. Is there any other comments or questions?
Just Deputy Mayor,
Go
you're
ahead.
reaching.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, thank you through your worship. With what we've seen earlier tonight, at this point, I can't justify spending that kind of money, even though, yes, I realize 50% would be covered with DC charges. I'd like to put it over for the new council to decide what they want to do with that. I know it's got to be done eventually, but we've got a lot of unknowns coming up right now. And, if this thing hits the top end of 150,000, well, that's 75,000. It's got to be funded from somewhere. So I agree it's got to be done. I just think that it's best to put it off for the next term of council.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Calvert. Is Councillor Hicks?
Thank you through you, your worship. Mr. Brown, do you have, is there a short list of vendors? And I'm not saying for right now, because I agree, I don't think any money could be or should be spent in 2026. But in recommending it to the council, would you also be able to provide them with a short list or have something ready to go out for tender in order to get the price for the feasibility study and the timeline?
So through your worship to Councillor Hicks. So that is part of the staff recommendation to recommend to the 2027 budget deliberations. So the new council would have an opportunity to weigh, should we include this in our budget or not? So staff recommendation tonight is just to recommend to the next council term's mayor to consider the feasibility study through the budget process. So it's council wouldn't be saying, yes, it's in the budget. They would say, bring that back to the budget deliberations so that we can discuss it at a later date. To your question about tendering, we would be tendering this out. There would be a lot of work that needed to be done to hone in on the scope so that we could make sure that people are bidding apples to apples. And we would have to be very clear on what we wanted the consultants to do. So you can have them do less for less money, or you can have them do an extensive study for more money. The extensive studies, of course, like I'd mentioned earlier, are going to get a lot more traction on those applications for grants. They're going to give council a lot more information to make their decision.
Yeah, good.
Thank you. So to follow up and maybe just to reframe, so in order to be ready to go to tender, should the newly elected council decide that, yes, they want to go out and have a feasibility study done, is this work that can be started in order to start pulling our information together in order to put out a very detailed and specific tender if and when the time comes? Because I do agree, we are long overdue for some additional recreation facilities in the town. So,
yeah, through your worship, yes. So we could start to develop and work on that tender. We wouldn't be able to issue the tender, obviously, but we can definitely work on it, get it ready on the shelf, ready to go, so that if it was included in the budget in 2027, then we could do that early in the term.
okay. And because I'm thinking timeline, 2027, by the time you issue the tender, you get everything back. It's discussed whether or not like it is feasible. You're looking at 2028 budget. And then of course you'd want to hit the grant application cycle as well. So in the recommendation, which I would move staff recommendation, should there also be something that staff be directed to begin having a package prepared in order to go out for tender should the new council 2027 elect to go. I know everyone has a lot on their plate right now, but, you know, given, say you have 6 months, it's just a thought, if it could be added in.
I like the way you're thinking. I'm not certain, do we need to do that? Because if we forward it to the budget process, I think we're all going to be aware that if we write in, if it's makes sense to write into the budget process, I think staff would have sufficient time, am I correct? To have sufficient time from the time it gets into the budget process to the time that the budget has been passed, that staff would have sufficient time to create that document and have it ready for tender. And I'll wait to hear back from you, Chris, but is there sufficient time to do it then, or is it going to be substantive enough that maybe you should start working on it now?
Through your worship, we definitely can start working on it now. To be quite frank, a lot of the prep work will have to be done for those budget deliberations, just to understand what the scope of work will be, and roughly how much money we're going to budget for that. So a lot of that work will be done beforehand. And then it would be a matter of just putting that tender together quickly as soon as it's approved.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got your answer, Councillor Hicks.
So, sorry, excuse me. Would I just do a slight change to?
I would suggest, we don't have a motion on the floor, so I would suggest that you may want to modify the staff recommendation, and obviously Madam Clerk can, with her ability to word things the way she does, could probably help us out with that. So, Madam
Further,
Clerk.
the council direct staff to begin preparation of a tender package should new council wish to pursue the feasibility study, or words to that effect. Okay, I'll move that.
Okay, Madam Clerk, do you have what you need? And do we have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Conover, is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion on the floor? And just briefly, I think, I mean, obviously, this document is important for us to be able to obtain funding. And we already know, I guess, at this point, what funding is out there for the 2026 fiscal year. And I think the provincial government's budgeting is for April 1st, am I correct there? Is when their new budget comes out. So in all likelihood, there's probably not much available funding for 2026, but we would be in position to, if we can put this thing together before the April 1st date, that we're probably in position for any new funding that would come out, I would guess. So anyways, if there's nothing else, all in favor of the motions on the floor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Parks, Recreation, and Culture Community Event Application, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. A community event application was received from Greater Napanee Connect to host a block party kickoff event in the Market Square here at Town Hall. The event is scheduled for Friday, July 17th from 5 to 8. The block party kickoff is a free community event celebrating the launch of Greater Napanee Connect's new block party kit program. The program is designed to help residents host neighborhood gatherings, street parties, road hockey tournaments, community bonfires, and other activities that bring neighbors together. The event will take place in Market Square and feature family-friendly activities, including outdoor games, music, community organizations, and food vendors. The event is open to all residents of Greater Napanee and the surrounding area. The block party kit program was a recipient of the 2025 fall intake of the Community Initiatives Fund, receiving $5,000 in funding, which was proudly supported by community benefit contributions from Atura Power, owners and operators of the Napanee Generating Station. Operational implications, all the requested elements are included in the community events policy and only require minimal staff resources to accommodate. The event organizers have requested garbage cans and waste collection, portable toilets, and also assistance with the road closure. Market Square will be closed to traffic from approximately 3 in the afternoon to 9 p.m. to accommodate the event and ensure safety for all participants. And it is their hope to be able to send people from the block party down to the park for a movie in the park that same night. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, through you, your worship. So I have actually attended 2 of the preliminary meetings with Greater Napanee Connect. And my only regret is that in order to include community organizations, the date was changed and now I won't be able to attend. But if anyone is interested in volunteering for a couple hours that night, if you reach out to Greater Napanee Connect, they would love to hear from you. And there are just so many fun things planned. And the kit itself, so like I want to have a block party now. And I live way out in the country, but it's really, what they've put together is really quite something. So check it out, guys. It's going to be a good time. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Hicks. Is there anything else? Go ahead. Councillor Hicks has made the motion of the staff recommendation, which is to receive for information Parks, Recreation, Culture, and Community Event Application Report, and further, council approve the block party kickoff event in accordance with the community events policy. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Davey. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion that's on the floor? Opposed? Motion's carried. And we are at 8:30, so I think we'll take a 10-minute break. 8:32, we'll see you back about 8:42. Thanks. Great, thanks for your indulgence. We'll get back at it here. Next matter up is Executive Services Spring 2026 Community Initiatives Fund Recommendation. And Holly, I think, not Holly, Kylie, you're up.
Thank you. The report in front of you tonight outlines recommendations for the first intake of 2026 for the Community Initiatives Fund. The Community Initiatives Fund Advisory Committee met on June 15th to review applications, and there were a total of 8 applications received, 4 of which the committee deemed were eligible for funding, and 4 they deemed as not eligible for funding based on what was provided in the application and based on the scoring from the grant criteria. So of the 4 that were selected, the committee is recommending that funding be provided to the Old Hay Bay Church for promotional signage in the amount of $1,946.05, to Selby United Church for their Camp Cornerstone for $1,000, to St. Albans Center for a new accessible ramp at their facility, in the amount of $3,439.45, and to the Lennox Agricultural Society for $2,548.15 for an AED device for their new building. Should council approve the recommendation, staff will send out letters to the recipients that were approved, and we'll get agreements written up with them to get them their funding. And I should note that the fund is supported by Atura Power, who are the owners and operators of the Napanee Generating Station. And I'm happy to take any questions from council.
Okay, thanks, Kylie. Is there any questions, comments, concerns for Kylie with respect to her presentation or the report that's in front of us this evening? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information, the Executive Services Spring 2026 Community Initiatives Funds Recommendation Report, and further that council approve the recommendations provided by the Community Initiatives Fund CIF Advisory Committee. Moved by Councillor Davey, second by Councillor Hicks. If there's no further comments, questions, concerns, all in favor of that motion, opposed, motion is carried. Financial and IT Services 2025 year-end reserve transfers. And Ellen, whenever you're ready, the floor will be yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have a report before you tonight regarding 2 specific reserve transfers that were highlighted during our year-end review. One is related to solid waste, and the other was related to the TAC agreement with the county. I'll start with the solid waste conversation. So we are looking to council to pass a resolution to transfer the overall surplus within that department of $166,000 to the solid waste reserve. So that's a combination of surplus between all the cost centers, so solid waste, curbside collection, the 3 waste sites, recycling, and general administration. So we don't typically recommend reserve transfers by departmental surplus or deficits, but however, in this case, we think that it's appropriate to bring this to council's review, given the materiality of the surplus. So there are a number of factors affecting how this surplus came to be. Some of the main drivers were additional bag tag sales. So bag tag sales beyond those included in the collection charge. So there was about $50,000 there. We also had additional revenue that we saw at the site, so in tipping fees and in grant revenues, there's about $25,000 there. And then we did see some savings within our contracted services across the board between like curbside collection, the grinding and tipping fees at the sites, and in our recycling contract. So a combination of those things, along with a number of other small things, made up that $166,000. We will say it was a difficult year to budget. We all know that waste and recycling went through a lot of changes in that period. So there is a surplus beyond the budgeted contribution that council passed resolution for at, I believe it was the last council meeting or maybe one before that. Does council have any questions on the solid waste reserve? Happy to take those.
Starting with the waste, does anyone have any questions on that? Seeing none, go ahead, Alan.
So the second one that we're asking council to consider is a reserve transfer that's related to the TAC agreement. So as part of our agreement with the county, we have a set rate that the county pays us per year. If we go above or below that cost, I guess above that cost, then they pay the additional amount to us. So we received an additional $240,000 from the county for our winter maintenance on their roads. So we're recommending that we transfer that into the winter control reserve. But in doing so, we also did have an operating deficit given the winter that we had this year. So we're looking to fund that deficit back out of the reserve. So there's about $180,000 that we need to fund in that deficit, to fund that deficit. And the balance remaining between those two transfers was $60,000. That brings the year-end balance to approximately $168,000 in winter control. Any questions on that?
Is there any questions with respect to that? Sounds like the story of my life, eh? Comes in easy and it goes out just as easy, so. Is there any comments or questions by anybody with respect to Alan's report or the presentation? If not, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information financial and IT services 2025 year-end reserve transfers report and further that council direct $166,670.01 surplus be transferred to the solid waste reserve and further that council direct $243,581.01 from the 2025 TAC reconciliation payment to be transferred to the winter control reserve and $183,951.78 to fund operating deficit and winter control be transferred from the winter control reserve. Moved by Councillor Hicks, second by Councillor Davies. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Next up would be Financial and IT Services Report, Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board Accommodation Tax. And you're going to do that one as well, Alan?
Thank you, Mayor. So this report highlights the proposed agreement with the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board, who was named our eligible tourism entity under the MAT agreement, which is the organization that we will share the 50% of the proceeds from the MAT funding that's generated. So the attached agreement establishes the governance, reporting, accountability framework for the use of the MAT revenues. The agreement confirms that the MAT funding must be used primarily for tourism promotion benefits within Greater Napanee, with the requirement that 80% of the funds must be spent promoting tourism in Greater Napanee. However, 20% may support regional tourism initiatives. This agreement does mirror exactly those with our other regional partners, being Belleville, Quinte West, and Brighton. Bay of Quinte is also the regional tourism partner as well. So if council has any questions or would like to see any amendments on the agreement, staff is certainly happy to take those. Otherwise, it's there for your consideration to approve as part of the tourism agreement requirements.
Great, thanks, Alan. Is there any questions, comments, concerns with respect to the presentation or the report that's in front of us? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the Financial and IT Services Report, Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board Municipal Accommodation Tax Agreement Report, and further that council authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute the agreement. Moved by Councillor Hicks, second by Councillor Davies. No further comments, questions, or concerns. All in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Executive Services Labor Relations Reserve Spending Thresholds and Governance Framework.
Thank you, through your worship. Here today just to quickly talk about our labor relations reserve. So at the council meeting on May 12th, council approved the establishment of the labor relations reserve, funded through the allocation of $155,000 through a WSIB workplace rebate. The purpose of this reserve is to provide a dedicated funding source for non-recurring unanticipated human resources expenditures, including recruitment, staffing transitions, labor relations matters, and termination or restructuring costs. The proposed expenditure thresholds were developed based on the anticipated frequency, urgency, financial risk, and operational impact associated with each category of the human resources expenditures. Under the proposed framework, the Chief Administrative Officer, in consultation with the Treasurer, would be authorized to approve expenditures from the Labor Relations Reserve within the approved categories and threshold limits, which I'm about to identify. First is the recruitment and staffing transition costs. The requested delegated authority limit is $15,000 per occurrence. Termination, severance, and workforce restructuring cost. The delegated authority limit request is up to $50,000 per occurrence. Labor relations, legal, and investigation costs. The request for delegated authority limit is up to $25,000 per matter. Workplace safety, WSIB, and accommodation costs. The request for delegated authority limit is up to $20,000 per occurrence. In addition to the categories that I just listed, staff and administration recommends the following controls, which is a total annual withdrawal shall not exceed the available reserve balance. Any expenditures outside the approved categories shall require council approval. And finally, all expenditures from the reserve shall be reported to council through the annual financial reporting and reserve continuity schedules. I'm happy to answer any questions if council has any. Thank you.
Thanks, Holly. Is there any questions or comments for Harley with respect to Deputy Mayor Cover?
Thank you, through your worship. So you want to take this $155,000 and put it into this workplace safety reserve and then have almost uncontrollable spending. How do we replenish this money when it's gone?
Through your worship, so my hope is to not use any of these very regularly. These are for special circumstances as listed and outlined in the report. However, we are looking at different strategies in order to continue to keep this reserve healthy. So any future WSIB refunds we get would go back into the reserve. And we're also looking at any unused staffing costs to be put into this reserve going forward. However, we're still working on figuring out that going forward.
Okay, thank you. Because I thought the original idea of this reserve was set up for the policing costs. As it continues, this is not the same reserve we're talking about? No? Okay, I'm just off on another tangent here. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Cover. Is there anything else? Councillor Martin, then I'll go to Mr. Grant.
Thank you, Mayor. So where is this money coming from to go into the reserve? From taxation, general taxation?
Through your worship, no, this is a one-time funding reimbursement that we got from WSIB. So it's
Okay,
yeah.
so that's, okay.
Yes.
Okay. I missed that somewhere.
Mr. Grant.
Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Just to go back to previous comments from the Deputy Mayor, replenishing this particular reserve. It is our intention as a management team to target any funds that we can find in unused HR-related spending, such as unspent salary dollars, either what's from what is known as gapping dollars, where you budget to the top line of a salary, but not everyone gets that. If there's turnover and there's a period of time between someone's employment ceasing at the town and the new person starting, there's still budgeted salary dollars there that remain unspent. Those would be a first stop to redirect those funds that were already earmarked for HR-related purposes into the HR fund. And it's management's intention to explore all other options to see how we can maintain and ensure that it's healthy, including, as Ms. Knapfisher has pointed out, by trying our best to avoid using it in the first place.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Cover.
Thank you, through your worship. So how have we been funding this all the way along without having this set up?
Sorry, my apologies. Through your worship, we've been trying to find the money as it happens. Again, these are not regular occurrences that happen, although they do happen. We have just been finding the money as we needed to and piecemealing it together, which comes with its own struggles, as you can imagine, trying to use those gapping dollars versus having a fund that is strictly for these types of purchases and these types of incidents going forward. It just helps us better plan, and then we're not coming to council asking for that amount of money or trying to make it a make work project.
Mr. Grant.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, the other thing that we've been doing is not spending in areas where we should be. So I would take a look at recruitment. If we're going after, say, for the sake of argument, a professional planner, rather than put things out on our Facebook feed and our website and hope that someone finds it there, we would invest, and in fact did invest, in advertisements, in planning related, a professional organization websites and the like, which is where those individuals congregate. That comes at a cost that, in the absence of a budget, often we just didn't do. And so that's one example of how we did it. And then the others are, we'd either come to you and ask you for money, or we would figure out where we could cobble it together.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Is there anything else before I go ahead, Councilor Davey?
Through you, Mayor, I guess the only part in this that I take issue with it all looks good, and the nice idea of having a fund there available to you to use when needed. And I mean, that's always a great thing to have established. The termination, severance, and workforce restructuring costs of $50,000 per occurrence. At a minimum, I believe the mayor's got to be consulted on a value that high. I just, that to me doesn't feel good. It's just a gut feeling. I think either I'd like to see that number lower, or approval authority in consultation with treasurer and mayor at the end of that at a minimum. That's a big number that I just can't get my, like I say, it's a gut feeling. It's just, it's, to me, it's too high for one occurrence without, at a minimum, mayor being involved.
Thanks, Councilor Davey. You're starting to read my mind there. It was, is there anything else? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Keller.
No, I agree with Councilor Davey, because I mean, these numbers are pretty high for an amount that's only $155,000 to begin with in a fund. And I've seen it before where departments have their own little funds available, and it's amazing just how quick it can get ate up. And maybe not, but like I say, anything like that should at least go through the mayor and the treasurer for sure. We got to account for every nickel possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Calvert. Is there anything else before I weigh in? Go ahead, Councilor Hicks.
So every nickel is accounted, because we could actually say quarterly, if there's any withdrawals from this fund or any use of this fund, it just gets reported quarterly. But I think the intent behind this is that there doesn't have to be a special meeting, with the exception of the $50,000 for requiring also the mayor's approval. I have no issues with that. I understand what you're trying to do. I don't have an issue with it, and rather just like the annual financial statement. It just comes in on a quarterly basis as part of one of your monthly reports, if something were used. It doesn't have to be a name, it doesn't have to be personal details, but it just lets us know what's going on with that, I think. Recruitment, I'm trying to stay in my seat on the ship. So if that's acceptable for everyone, that it be quarterly reporting, and that the one be changed to include the mayor, then I'll make the motion for staff recommendation.
I think, just before you do that, I'll weigh in, Councilor Hicks. I think that's what the concern is removing the funds from a reserve fund. If these types of incidences are so isolated, or we expect them to be isolated, I don't know why, something like that couldn't be brought back to council, because with all due respect. So I think that's probably the best route to go with it. I agree with the fund. I agree that dedicating money to these things that we don't always need the money for is a good idea, because it's always difficult sometimes to go looking for the money. So I agree with the fund in and of itself. It's just the delegation of dispersing the funds probably should, at very minimum, come back to council. That would just be my opinion anyway. So if it was something that was happening every other week, then, maybe something different, but it's not. It's something that sounds like it's probably quite isolated. Go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, what I would recommend in that case is that perhaps we create two categories of thresholds here, things that would require council approval, such as if there's an extraordinary expense for, say, termination or something like that, the reasons and the individual and the HR matters, we wouldn't get into those, but we get into the operational implications. But the other things such as recruitment expenses and that sort of thing, I would suggest that should be the purview of HR.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. It sounds like there may be some work to do on this, is what I'm thinking anyways, from what I'm hearing. And so maybe what we could do is we have council receive for information, the executive services, labor relations, reserve spending thresholds, and governance framework report, and for that council direct staff to bring back a revised governance framework to a future meeting for council approval. And I think probably our conversations this evening have probably guided you in a direction that you could probably bring something that may be a little more palatable to council. Mr. Grant?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I think that we can take the feedback we received this evening. It is our intention, management's intention, and myself and Ms. Knapp Fisher, that we would like council to feel comfortable with whatever thresholds there are. And that's the purpose of it being here today. We wanted to identify a deficit that we do have with line items that need to be funded, but also we would like to do it in a manner similar to what we're doing with other things with delegated authority. So we'll do some work and bring it back to you.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Calver.
I was just going to move your thoughts there. It's a good idea.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. And Madam Clerk, you do have what you need. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Davey? Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion on the floor? Opposed, motion's carried. Growth and Infrastructure Services Biosolids Management Master Plan. And Mr. Nobes, nice to see you again. Whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Worship, and through you to council. What's before council on the agenda for this item is solely just for information only. I just wanted to bring to council's awareness a need to put our minds towards management of our biosolids as we get into commencing operation with our upgraded wastewater plant. And while there's no immediate financial need to be concerned about, we're looking at options and doing some long-term capital planning, capital review as a result of anticipated increased flows from growth and increased costing if we do nothing, essentially, with the way in which we operate and manage our biosolids today. So biosolids are effectively the leftover sludge from the wastewater treatment process that needs to be disposed of. It comes out of the treatment process. It is effectively solidified. It can't be discharged into the Napanee River like the treated effluent is. So the way in which we currently operate it, we haul it off site, we take it to lagoons, and there's a process where in the lagoons, the sludge is further treated and there's land application and the like. What we looked at was 5 different options from a life cycle costing perspective, regulatory compliance perspective, operational reliability, and long-term scalability. So we looked at remaining as status quo, which includes, again, hauling of our sludge off-site. We looked at expanded storage at the lagoons through purchase of the lagoons, looked at on-site storage of the raw biosolids, so constructing very large tanks to hold the a set volume, a set period of time's volume on the site to then be disposed of off-site. We looked at solely third-party management, and we looked at a sludge dewatering facility. And the sludge dewatering facility is the recommended approach at this time. It offers a combination of a higher upfront capital cost than several of the other options identified, but over the long-term horizon, on a 25-year period, it substantially is less in overall cost compared to the other options that were reviewed. So from a life cycle perspective, this is effectively showing a clear trade-off in if you have an extremely low upfront capital cost, you're going to have an exponential operating cost over time and result in very large expenditures on an annual basis as you get further into the overall use of the plant on a long-term basis. So effectively what a sludge dewatering facility would do is it would take that sludge, it would dry it out, and what you would get left over with is effectively a cake, which could then be either land applied like a lot of sludge is currently doing, or it can be land filled. The process of drying out that water or the liquid in that sludge dramatically reduces the hauling and shipping costs off of the site, which dramatically reduces the long-term operating costs. So you have a higher upfront cost, but there's an extremely gradual operating cost as a result, rather than an exponential if we weren't to do this. So what we've done is we've built associated costing into the DC background study that we heard this evening to identify it as a future capital project. Whether that actual project is ultimately actioned or not is effectively regardless. We're collecting monies to deal with sludge, whether it's a sludge dewatering facility or a large tank or other. We're collecting those funds through the DC framework to help offset the rates that would effectively need to make up the shortfall. So while we're not needing to do this at any point in time in the immediate future, it's something that's on our radar. It's in the foreground of what we're looking forward to having to do in the future, and we don't want to get caught between a rock and a hard place, it being too late and have to make a snap decision. So we've started this review. We've started a bit of a funding program and strategy around that. And we would also continue, like we did with the actual plant project itself, look for additional external funding opportunities along the way to further help reduce the burden on rates down in the future. So just bringing it for council's awareness at this stage, no ask, no need for this right now. It's just an FYI. This is what staff have worked on with our design engineers who designed the plant. And we believe that the proposed sludge dewatering facility in the future would be the most balanced approach to overall capital cost and operational cost for the town.
Thank you, Mr. Nobes. Is there any, go ahead, Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Michael, so in the future, is it going to be possible then to like eliminate the need of leasing lagoons and that sort of thing?
Through your worship, absolutely. And that is that would be the ultimate intention. So there'd be a need to continue leasing the lagoons for a period of time, and some overlap with constructing such facility in the future. What this would ultimately do is effectively remove that operational need, shift a little bit more of a burden on the capital side upfront to build it, but then the operational costs would dramatically reduce over time. A lot of the funding opportunities out there are really for capital projects only. You're not really going to get any funding for just general operational needs. So that's where we're looking at maximizing the potential for funding opportunities through this and reducing the overall operational reliance on the rates.
Thank you. I like that idea of reducing costs dramatically because we need that in the time right now. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Bill. We get into some interesting conversations, dehydrating sludge. Is there anything else? Councilor Hicks.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. Michael, the footprint at the waste treatment plant currently, when I read the report, it said that it allows for like this methodology of drying it out even more. How much larger of a footprint is going to be required down there? Because I know when we went on the site tour, it was pretty impressive what was going on in such a small footprint. with, I mean, having the stationary crane there and, how much more can it grow
Sure.
without encroaching on property?
Yeah, great question. So if you can envision from our site tour a couple of weeks ago, where council parked, or a few members of council parked, there were those large circular red brick buildings. Those are intended to stay for long, for the storage, from a storage perspective. So the sludge would go in there, it would stay in there for a period of time, and then if we built this facility, it would be pumped from there into the facility and then dried. Everything east, if you can envision east of those, demolished, gone, site leveled. So what that would effectively do is allow the town in the future to effectively twin the plant that's being built now on the east side where all of the old existing plant is. So it's both future proofing, the need to at some point in the future expand beyond the project that's underway. But there would be still a substantial remaining amount of land to accommodate this. So this could be scalable, modular type of building that, maybe we only need one kiln now, but we'll need two when we have a second plant, for example. Like there's a lot of flexibility, I'll say, in demolishing and leveling the site east of those circular buildings and having that footprint available decades down in the future for another plant effectively at that spot, but also still retain room enough for this. So we'd look, if we built this, we would plan out, okay, when we need a second plant, let's put it here and let's not, put this building in the wrong spot where we're going to handcuff ourselves right in the future.
Very good. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Councilor Hicks. Deputy Mayor Gower.
Thank you, through your worship. So when the time comes to build one of these kilns, as you're talking, very similar to what Drainall does out there with their treatment. I guess not Drainall now, it's GFL. Anyways, the methane gas, would we be able to use that methane gas on the kiln that we create?
Through your worship, another great question. Potentially, again, subject to detailed design, but yes, the potential, the opportunity could be there. Whether that's solely offsetting the hydro costs to run the kilns, or potentially selling it back to the grid and doing the burning at a period of low energy consumption rates. There might be a trade-off and further reduce operating costs as a result. But yes, that's something that would be reviewed in the detailed design stage. But yes, there ultimately is that possibility.
Wonderful, thank you.
Great, thanks, Deputy Mayor Gower. Is there anything else? If not, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information, the Growth and Infrastructure Services Biosolids Management Master Plan Report. Moved by Deputy Mayor Gower, seconded by Councilor Davey. If there's no further comments, questions, concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed, motion is carried. Executive Services recommended updates to the resolution and mandate tracker. And Mr. Grant, you're going to speak to that.
I am, and thank you, Your Worship, and through you, Mr. Mayor, to members of council. So this will be the second time that this has come before council. We wanted to give council a few weeks to think about these particular items. So our goal as the management team is to try to get as close to zero in the items remaining to do as we can by the end of the term. We appreciate in looking at the months ahead that we candidly won't have enough time to do all of the items or all of them as well as we'd like to. So with that in mind, we are looking to update the resolution tracker by taking the following items off without having them completed. Updates to the parking bylaw at this point, and I believe that Madam Clerk brought forward a report on that at our last meeting. Plans to explore the repurposing of the use of the Via Rail Station waiting room, and in light of recent announcements by the federal government, that probably is timely. Review of a municipal tree planting policy and a broader review of RVs permitted on private property, not to be confused with action that we're taking on a specific property. And from the mandate items, of which we did complete all service levels in the last meeting and a number of other items. So we're going to be sitting at around 80%, I think, a little over that. But a review of the fees and charges bylaw, there's been significant work done on that. But there's more work remaining to be done. But it is our intention to bring forward a recommendation to review this annually. Space allocation, standardization at town facilities, who's using what and where. There's some more work that needs to be done on that. And public engagement framework and guidelines. And that one, candidly, we don't have the time to do it right. And the consultation that should occur on that. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing something as important as this and consulting on it in the summer. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Is there any questions, comments, or concerns for Mr. Grant with respect to his presentation or the reports in front of us this evening? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the Executive Services Resolution and Mandate Letter Recommended Amendments Report, and further that council approve the removal of the recommended items, acknowledging that they will not be able to be completed this term of council. Moved by Councillor Davey, seconded by Councillor Norrie. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Bylaws, of which we have none this evening. Information reports from members. Are there any members that would like to provide any information updates with respect to external boards, committees that they have been appointed to? Seeing none. Inquiries. Is there any inquiries that any members of council would like to task staff with this evening? Seeing none. Notice of motions, and I believe we do have a couple of those, and I think Councillor Martin, you want to go first?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Perhaps I'll just read my motion. We can put it on the floor, and hopefully I'll get a seconder for it. Can I do it that way?
Yeah, I believe, Madam Clerk, we can do that motion tonight because it was filed at the appropriate time. So go ahead. You're going to do that by way of motion, Bill?
Thank you. So my motion reads that on behalf of the citizens of Greater Napanee who feel that the mature oak trees on County Road 9 are part of their community heritage and should be preserved, the Council of the Town of Greater Napanee inform the County of Lennox and Addington Council that we are opposed to the planned tree removal.
Thank you, Councillor Martin, and seconded by Councillor Hicks. I'll give Councillor Martin the opportunity to speak to the motion first, if you'd like to, Bill, if you'd like to expand on it. If not, then I'll go to Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to speak to it. I'm doing this for a couple of reasons, actually, but and some of it, it's my own personal feelings on it as well. But I've had a lot of folks call me and email me this last couple of weeks and asked me to support them in what they're trying to do is preserve the canopy of trees going on County Road 9 that just around the corner and going, and it's almost like an alleyway right to the bay. So, and I can recall myself actually, I had occasion when I was a student working for a farmer out there. I used to park the tractor and wagons under those trees for a bit of a respite in the shade. So I know what they're talking about. And actually, I had a young lady, she was with you and I a while ago, mentioned to me that when she sees that corridor of trees, she pictures a stagecoach with a team of horses going through it. So, you know, this is, you know, trees that are 150, 200 years old, and I think they deserve to be preserved. I think they need to be allowed to live their lifespan, and everybody should know that trees are very important to us. We breathe oxygen, and trees produce it. So the other thing is I wanted to impress upon actually Mr. Grant, if I've been told or become known that the town of Napanee has no tree policy, particularly with older growth trees and heritage trees. So I wonder in the future, and I realize everybody's busy, maybe in the next term of council, we can get a tree a tree policy in place for the town of Greater Napanee.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Absolutely, we'd be happy to do that. And should that come forward in the next term of council to have a tree policy, we can certainly do that, whether it be memorial trees, things to support a tree canopy. There's numerous examples out there that we could draw from, and we would take the time to do it right.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. And if I could, Mayor, just one more. I realize there's, well, you and the deputy mayor, of course, know there's a council meeting tomorrow night and for county council, and I believe there's a deputation on this very subject there. So there was another reason for me to mention it tonight, is just to draw attention to the fact that I think especially that grove of trees there is very important to the town of Greater Napanee, and I wanted to draw attention to it, and also to the possibility of a future tree policy. So that's all I have to say, and I'll leave it at that. And I would like to thank Madam Clerk for her help in devising this. But of course, everybody, I'm sure, recognizes her touch on some of these motions. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Hicks, did you want to weigh in? I know you seconded the
Your
motion.
Worship.
So
Thanks, Bill. That was a really nice segue, because I had actually reached out to the CAO and the clerk about introducing a motion tonight on the very topic of a town tree policy following our last meeting. So I would like to introduce a notice of motion that council directs staff to draft a policy for the protection of the municipal tree canopy. May I? Oh, sorry.
We'll deal with this one first, I think, Ange.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I seconded Bill's motion. I'm going to the meeting, as a matter of fact, tomorrow night. Thank you,
We'll
sorry.
deal with the one that's on the floor, and then
Yes.
what we'll do is I'll come back to you,
Yes.
because I know
Yeah.
that you want to do that, so.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I just didn't want you to repeat yourself, that's all. With respect to the motion on the floor, are you good with what you've related to us this evening, or did you want to add more to it? So
Okay, so thank you, through you, your worship. Can I add to Councillor Martin's motion, or no, I can't. So I will second his motion to put it on the floor for.
yeah, we've already got that. We've got the motion on the floor. We've got you as a seconder. That's why I wanted to give you the opportunity to speak to it. I just didn't know whether you were done speaking to it or if you want to do it.
I think by seconding it, I've said everything that needs to be said. I'm totally in favor of saving those trees, and they should absolutely not be cut down. So.
Perfect. Okay, we'll open it up to the rest of council. Did the rest of council wish to speak to the motion that's on the floor? Deputy Mayor Cower.
Thank you, through your worship. Same as everybody, I would get calls left, right, and center on trees. I know more about the bur oak tree now than I ever do about any tree in my life. I read all kinds of MTO regulations, rules, studies. I've been out personally myself with my tape measure, measuring trees from one end of this county to the other. And yeah, we are going to have quite a little discussion tomorrow night at County Council for sure. I'm just wondering, by making this motion, would we be accepting the liability and responsibility for trying to keep these trees that don't really belong to the town of Greater Napanee? This is a fight we have to take to county tomorrow night, would be my way of thinking. I just don't want to get us into any kind of hot water with any kind of ramification with a liability down the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cower. I don't know if Madam Clerk wants to weigh in, and I mean, I could give you an uneducated opinion on it, but I would suggest that ultimately the decision with respect to property owned by the County of Lennox Acton will be the County of Lennox and Anthem Council that are going to make that decision. So any liability, I mean, our motion this evening would be an opinion that this council has provided to the County of Lennox and Anthem, but I wouldn't think that we would be absorbing or accepting any of the liability. I think the liability is probably lies in the hands of the County of Lennox and Anthem and the council. The council making the decision, of which you and I are both members of. So don't take that to the bank. That would be an uneducated thought, but maybe Mr. Grant can help me out.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know more than a third party giving us advice on what to do with our area of business. It is council's privilege to provide advice and counsel, but save the members that sit on county council. It's just that, it's opinions and advice.
Yep. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Thank you. I just want to know where all these people were when we cut all the beautiful maple trees downtown, when we did Center Street, or when we did Dundas Street years ago. We cut down some beautiful, beautiful trees, absolute gorgeous trees. Oh yeah, we had to make the road wider and put sidewalks in. It was a shame then too. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Brian. Is there anything else? And I will rely upon Madam Clerk. I believe should this motion pass this evening, I think it's probably a little late to get the motion or to do it, to get this to the county. We can get them a copy of it. And by all means, either myself or the deputy mayor can relate to county council the motion that we've committed this evening. I'm just going to look to you to clarify any legalities if there are any.
Through your worship, certainly staff can send the correspondence to the County of Lennox and Anthem first thing tomorrow morning. It would not make it on their agenda, I don't believe, under their policies. So it would be council looking to their representatives at that body to verbally pass this on. And I just also want to note that whatever vote happens here does not bind the votes of any individual members who sit on county council. It is this council expressing an opinion to county council, but it is not binding the future decisions of either of the members who sit there.
At which time we put on our other hat, I guess. So, okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anything else before we call for the vote with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Go ahead, Hans.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just, I was driving home from Kingston on number 2 highway the other day. I glanced out my window and I thought, boy, that rock cut's awfully close. Is it within the mandated distance as a county road? Is the guardrail on River Road? Just when you start really paying attention to, as a driver, on a highway or a road, you start paying attention to the things that seem to be very close. Now, if it's within the, what is it, 1.5 meter? And I don't want to get into a big debate, but I'm just saying, like, at what point do people have to take responsibility for themselves and their driving habits? And anybody that has driven on County Road 9, they drive too damn fast. The vast majority of them. I pull over in the morning and let them go on by because they're entitled enough to need to get, 2 car lengths ahead of me at the stoplight that we're all coming up to. At any rate, I just needed to get that out. That these trees, there's probably measures that can be taken to accommodate those trees until, as Councillor Martin said, they've lived out their life. To cut them down is really quite sacrilegious, almost. I'll use that word. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hicks. I'm quite confident that there will be a robust conversation tomorrow evening. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Cowper.
Just to give you a quick on that, Councillor Hicks. So steel guardrails are designed for a minimum of 1.4 meters to protect from the solid object MTO regulation. Okay. So from your guardrail to your solid object, be your rock cut or be a tree, 1.4 meters. Now that's just, let me finish. Don't take the head off yet. Now, County Road 2 is a county road, or that's county road. But if you go down Highway 33, that is an MTO road. And if you look, there's some brand spanking new shiny guardrail put up. And some of them guardrails are 20 inches from the tree. Their rules, their regulations, 20 inches, half a meter. Okay. Now, the driving lanes on County Road 9 are 9 meters, or 12 feet, sorry. Some of the trees are a half a meter from the driving lane. There is no paved shoulder there. So I got a few suggestions to bring up tomorrow night of how we can make this work. So we'll just have to wait for tomorrow night. But I just want to share that the distances with you, and then how MTO just kind of went against their own regulations, but they're willing to accept that responsibility. So thank you.
I drove past that very
Great,
tree
thanks.
on Sunday.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there anything else with respect to the motions on the floor before we call for the vote? Seeing none, all in favor of the motions on the floor? Opposed, motion's carried. And Councillor Hicks, I believe you may want to make a notice of motion.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So as I said earlier, thank you, Councillor Martin, for the nice segue. I would like to make a motion that council direct staff to draft a policy for the protection of the municipal tree canopy, under which the town will plant 2 new trees for every healthy tree that is removed from town property as a result of town-initiated works. I reiterate, town property, town-initiated works. This does not have any bearing on private property. And further, that council direct that the draft policy be brought back for council's consideration prior to the end of this term. Full stop. Now, if I may add, I know that just previously regarding the resolution tracker, there was, we just passed the motion to accept that. I really feel that based on the discussion that we had at the last meeting, and just in regards to what's going on at the county level with County Road 9, and as the Deputy Mayor mentioned, the tree canopy that was lost on Dundas Street, which is still to this day talked about. And there was a public outcry. I remember that discussion. This is something that I feel that we should have. I don't know if some minimal amount of research could be put into seeing what other municipalities have in place. Normally the town, I don't think, would cut down a tree unless it was interfering with infrastructure. And I know that was part of the reasoning for Dundas Street. At any rate, I would just like to put that out there because I really think we should give some consideration to this and not put it off. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to try and clear up some legalities first. By doing it by way of notice to motion, the motion would come back at the next meeting. By doing it by way of motion, because of we're doing it this evening, we need to have 2/3. Am I correct, Madam Clerk? Sorry, I forgot your microphone didn't work.
So through your worship, under the town's procedure bylaw, if the motion is provided before the agenda is published, council can vote on it that evening. If it's provided verbally, then the normal process is that we print it on the next agenda, which will be July 14th, and council votes on it at that meeting. However, if council feels this is pressing and they would like to see action start on this tonight, they can have a motion to consider Councillor Hicks's motion tonight. That motion needs 2/3 majority to pass, and then if that passes, then council can vote tonight on Councillor Hicks's motion.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Hicks.
Thank you. So unfortunately, I will not be here in person on the July 14th meeting. I wish I could be, but I won't be. And I don't have reliable cell service where I'm going to be. So if it would be possible, if everyone's willing, we could have the vote on it tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Grant.
And so through you, Mr. Mayor, I would also note for members of council, I would suggest that this particular motion is materially different than the item we took off the list, which resulted from a deputation, which largely talked about a tree sponsorship program that came forward, if that's of any benefit.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. I understand it's substantially different, but should they not be done in conjunction? If we're talking trees, should they not be done? And if we don't have time to do the municipal tree planting policy, how are we going to find time to do the other one? So that would be my concern. And the other concern I have is without bringing a report back to see how this is financially going to affect us, we've been very cautious as a council not to knee jerk on things. And so my concern is that by jumping at this point, I just think we're starting to get into that world of irresponsible, but that's just my opinion. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, through your worship. I don't see this as a knee jerk. I see this as something that's probably very long overdue. But the current situation has really highlighted the fact that we don't have this particular policy in place. And I understand with tree sponsorship and the in-town trails and et cetera, like that, yes, there may need to be a bit more work put into this, but I think what I'm asking for is not unreasonable. And it's, I mean, if you're going to cut down a perfectly healthy tree initiated by work that needs to be done by the town, planting 2 healthy trees, and it won't be obviously in the same spot because otherwise you wouldn't have cut down the healthy tree, but somewhere in the municipality, 2 trees be planted. It's not knee jerk. It's just, first of all, it's common sense. If you take one away and you replace it with 2, it's only beneficial to the town and to the community and to the air we breathe. So I don't think it should be considered as a knee jerk. I think it's just something that's long overdue. Thank you.
I don't disagree with you, Ange. The problem being is that with, and I think I probably have a copy of the motion in front of me, or the suspected motion, is that we're committing to doing something without doing the research on it. I guess that's where my concern is, and that we'd be asking staff to bring back a draft policy, which I'm guessing is going to have to be related to some type of financial commitment, unless we've got some type of reserve fund that's sitting there that would absorb this. So I guess that's what my concern is. But I think what we need to do is we'll start and follow the process. We'll ask for a motion to consider, and then we'll put and if that passes, we'll put the motion on the floor, and then we can have further discussion. I think that's probably the best way to go. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. And through your worship, I just want to note that procedurally, if staff are drafting a policy, normally we would be doing some research as part of drafting that policy. And it's just being brought back for council's consideration. There's no pre-approval. Council may see the policy and say, never mind, we don't want to do this. That is still a step that could happen further down the road. Just to clarify that point. But yes, procedurally, if council wants to vote on this, well, Councillor Hicks can be here to speak to it. The first step would be a notice or a motion to consider the matter tonight.
Deputy Mayor Calvert.
Thank you, through your worship. I agree with you. I don't think we should just jump right in. However, the county, when it comes time to look at this, the county has a program in play where they plant 2 trees for every tree they cut. And I know out the County Road 9 area, they're talking 4 trees, which are 10 to 14 feet high already, that they're going to put 4 for every tree that gets cut. So there is a policy in place with the county. It might be easy for us to take a look, have staff take a look at that policy and adopt it, and maybe bring it back the next time around. So thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Norrie, and then I'll come back to Councillor Hicks.
Yeah, through your worship. Thank you, Councillor Hicks. It makes a lot of sense, but I'd rather see this come under number 14 as inquiries, come back with a report, because it's cost. because we're close to budget time, and I don't want to take away from it, but there's so many unknowns we know from earlier tonight that I would just rather have come in as an inquiry and then they come back with a report when you're back and then take it from there. A month's not going to make much difference, but just my opinion.
Councillor Hicks.
Thank you through you, your worship. So as I won't be here on the 14th, but I will be here on the 28th. If you would like to defer until the 28th, then it would come back as an actual motion. As far as it being an inquiry, I don't know. The last time we purchased a sapling that was that height, it was, I think, maybe $250. How many healthy trees has the town cut down? That would be my first question. So how much are we actually looking at spending? All I'm saying is that there should be something in place, whereas if you take one down, you put two up. It's that simple. And if it's $500 a year, I think it's money well spent. That's where we're at. So if you would like to defer this until July 28th meeting, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so we can either do the notice to motion this evening, or we treat this as a notice to motion and bring it back on the
28th of July.
28th of July. And can we do that, Madam Clerk?
Through your worship, yes, that's permissible under the bylaw.
Fair enough.
Okay, I think we got a deal. So thank you. And you make that by way of notice to motion, and staff has the details. And Madam Clerk, you do have that. And I know we probably kind of went the back door way of getting there because we're not supposed to have that conversation, but that's okay. Moving on. Oh, sorry. Is there anyone else that would like to make a notice of motion this evening? Gets us into new business. Is there any new business that anyone would like to speak to this evening? Announcements? Would anyone like to make any announcements about anything? Councillor Hicks.
Just a reminder for anybody that's still watching or will be watching about the community block party being held in Market Square, July 17th. I believe it's running 5 to 9 or 5 to 8. Well, they've got to close down for prep, but and the movie in the park is following. So it'll be a really nice way to start your evening with a Rotary barbecue. There's vendors, games, fun, music, line dancing. Anyway, it's a good time. Hope people make an effort to come out and support. Thank you.
I'm sure they will, and it does sound like a good time, and it's exactly what our community wanted to happen. So for those out there that are watching, make sure you get out and enjoy the festivities. So is there anything else, Councillor Norrie?
Just briefly, everybody's aware a week tomorrow is our country's birthday, and with the mood a lot of people in, I hope they'll put them aside and come to the arena, talk to a neighbor, go fishing with your kids. Just go back to the 1960s and enjoy Canada Day, please.
Go to the car.
Yes, absolutely. The 1st of July kind of crept up on us, didn't it? So thanks, Bob, for bringing that to our attention. And go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, and speaking of the Canada's birthday there, the firemen are doing their pancake breakfast again on the July 1st out there, and the car show as well at the Best and Bash, and it's always a good time out there. And come out and support your firemen. Thank you.
Yes, thanks again, Brian. It's always a good event, and there's always lots of people out there, and let's hope that Mother Nature treats us with some good weather. So anything else? Seeing none, CEO's remarks. Mr. Grant, did you wish to enlighten us?
I did, Your Worship. I just wanted to send a thanks out to staff for their quick action on the environmental issue that happened on Kimmett Side Road today. What we saw was a quick reaction from the fire department, HR, communications, and Parks and Recreation to make sure that a situation was addressed, that people had to be evacuated were quickly accommodated. And that happened like clockwork, and I'm grateful.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. The forward calendar, we've all had an opportunity to look at it. Is there anything in the forward calendar anyone had any questions, comments, or concerns about? Seeing none, look for a motion for the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of Town of Greater Napanee. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, second by Councillor Norrie, read it first, second, and finally passed this 23rd day of June, 2026. All in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. A motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Davies, second by Councillor Hicks. There's no further comments, questions, or concerns. All in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks, folks, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.